Yay! Hello, everybody. Welcome to what is this? 243. We've been at it for a long time, huh? We've been doing this a long time, years and years. So, I have something I want to share with you guys, an idea that I have. Um, you guys have heard me talk a lot. Let me move this a little bit. You guys have heard me talk a lot about how great trumpet playing is mostly mental. And I one of the things what we're talking about when we say that is we're talking about the range, the progression of the range. Now, I've had a lot of students do really, really well with the range stuff, but then I've also had some students that it doesn't their range doesn't progress as quickly as they would want. And I had an epiphany this week, and I would like you guys to try something. If you are in that category and you feel like your range is not advancing as quickly as you want, I would like you to try to do some, what would we call this? Um, Reverse psychology. Okay. I actually believe that the anxiety we get. Now, what is anxiety? I don't care what other people's definition is of anxiety. I know that for myself. Anxiety is when you are not where you want to be. That's what that's what gives me anxiety is if and I by the way, there's a lot of stuff I do every single day that gives me anxiety because the whole point, like for example, composing. The whole point of composition is to get to the end, right? Finish the composition. For as long as you're writing a composition and it's not done yet, it can add um, anxiety to what you're doing, right? And certainly, the range thing can do that. It can give you anxiety. We don't, and it's a irony. It's an irony because the anxiety will prevent you from getting that other range. Remember, I say that it's mental, therefore it's vulnerable. So what I want you guys to do as an experiment is for the next 6 weeks, say to yourself that you're happy with your range. Say it, believe it. Now this reminds me of a story. I've changed the I've changed the details of the story many times so that nobody knows that who I'm talking about. Um, when I talk about it, I say that it's a female student, and the truth is it's not a female student. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's how much I've changed the whole story. But um, because I would really hate for that person to watch my Q and A and say, "Oh, he's talking about me." You guys know I don't like to put people down or anything like that. So, um, this student, I told her about if you want to win a contest, you have to not care whether you win or not. If you want to win a contest, you have to not care whether or not you win. Go do your best job, enjoy it, but don't take winning so seriously because once again, it's the same thing as what we're talking about now. If you take winning too seriously, you won't win. And so I told her about this, and so she comes back after the contest and she's crying. And she goes, Mr. Lewis, I I didn't care if I won and I still lost. and and it's like I think you missed the point. If you're crying right now, I think you cared a little bit more than you thought you did. You know what I mean? So anyway, so when I say for the next 6 weeks, tell yourself that you're okay with the range you already have and mean it. You have to mean it. Tell yourself that you're okay with the range you already have and see what that does to your playing. Still do all the rest of it. Don't get me wrong, right? Um, the resting thing, all the stuff that we talk about in the one range book is still legitimate. What we're talking about now is changing your outlook. So, for example, let's say your range is up to G and you want to expand it. Most people get stuck at G, and you want to expand from G. Don't try to expand it. Don't. I have a student that told me the other day, and I don't understand why he does this, but he told me he's been experimenting with the higher notes. Why are you doing that? If you've read the one range book, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Right? Be for the next 6 weeks. I want you to experiment. I'm asking you guys on who watch this video in the next 6 weeks, over the next 6 weeks. Don't. I want. So let's not do the double negative. Um, the way I worded it before was perfect. Okay. Be satisfied with the range you already have. For reals. Be satisfied with the range you already have. Do your practice like you've been doing. Don't play high range exercises. Don't change your routine. If a high note doesn't come out, don't sweat it. Just keep going the way you're going. Don't let that missed note cause you any kind of anxiety whatsoever. The idea is to accept completely where you are as a player and see if that doesn't change the psychology behind how you're playing. Okay? I want, so you guys can take this. Whoever reads this and feels like your range hasn't improved. And this really applies to whether you're using my books or you're not using my books. Um, I hope that makes sense. So give it a try. Give it 6 weeks and say to yourself, I'm happy with where my range is now. Okay? And mean it. I gotta say it that way. You gotta mean it. Okay? You have to mean it. And that could be the hardest part of what I'm asking you to do. You gotta mean it. You gotta mean it. All right, let's see here. Hello, Karen. Karen says, hi, 80. I'm fairly happy with my range, although it could be better. My biggest issue seems to be endurance, to be able to play the top of my range longer. My accuracy in my upper range is not as good either. I think this applies to that too. I think you could do just as an experiment, right? And maybe 6 weeks is too long, but I don't think we can have a definitive result. When I'm practicing, when I think back about how I developed my range, it, there was no anxiety about not getting the high notes. After I made all my changes, it was just a matter of do this, do that, do this, do that. I didn't have any of that. And maybe the reason for that was because I saw the progress I had already made. Maybe that's part of it. Hello, Mr. Thomas. Happy Trumpet Friday to you as well. Mr. Derek says, G sitting on top of the scale or the one way up there? G above the staff, not the one way up there. Okay. Hello, Mr. Lampy. Nice to see you. Mr. Thomas says, trumpet playing is hard. If it was easy, everyone would be a trumpet player. Yeah, but you know what? I want, for my students, I want them to not think like that. And I know this is head games, right? But that's what I've been saying all this time. I haven't used that terminology. But great trumpet playing is all head games. It's all head games. When I say great, I'm I'm leaving out when I say, because I'm always very careful the way I say that. I'm always saying great trumpet playing is mental, right? Beginner trumpet playing is not great trumpet playing. So that's why I say it that way. A lot of what I'm saying here right now does not apply to beginners. Not that I want the beginners to stress out. Don't get me wrong. Um, but I don't think the beginners are ready yet to just go 100% mental. I don't think they're ready for that. Hello, Mr. Pacina. Greetings, he says. I'm trying to change my embouchure position to the opposite side that I am used to because at the moment it seems to work best. Any recommendations as to how to approach it? Well, I still think that the what do you call it? The routines are perfect for any kind of armature change. The routines are perfect. You start with a buzz, and if you can only do the buzz, if that's the only thing you can do that day, then that's a good day. Then you put the mouthpiece on it. I know because you and I have done. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's you, right? You used to take lessons with me up until the pandemic, right? So you probably still have the books, and those books are perfect for making adjustments, for making changes, stuff like that. Yeah, it's just that you go slower, right? If all you can do today is up to the long tones, that's as far as you do. And because On the new books, the long tones expand, right? So let's say you can only do 2 or 3 of the long tones, well, that's also a good day, okay? Mr. Derek says, "Cool, thank you, you're welcome." Mr. Pacina says, "Yes, it's me, and thanks. I do have some of your books. Many thanks." Yes, so I do believe that the routines are perfect for that. Just don't try to do a whole routine if you're not ready yet. So if you only get to the mouthpiece buzz, then you got to the mouthpiece buzz and you go from there. All right, Karen says, should I play more often in my upper range to increase my endurance and accuracy, or will that just wear me out faster? One of my bands wants me to play first on a piece that is high uh, and too long. Um, I think the best way to do that is on the music that you're already. So that piece, this is a great opportunity, Karen. This is a great opportunity because you can take that piece that's too high and too long and use that. Now, I would, if you're still doing my structure, I don't know how much of that you're still doing, then on your day that you're going to have the most practice, the highest range and the longest practice sessions, then that's when you should practice that piece. And I want to stress for you how important it is to do the 10 times. So I would recommend working backwards and with the emphasis on the 10 times. In this case, the 10 times is not so you learn the piece. In this case, the 10 times is to wear you out. And here's the thing, there are other methods that focus only on the wearing you out part, and I use exercises to do that. One of the reasons why I emphasize practicing music, as you guys have heard me talk about the 50% rule, one of the reasons I emphasize the 50% rule is because when you only practice exercises, especially if it's the kind of exercises that develop your range, develop uh, your endurance, stuff like that, those exercises will help you develop stuff does not have a practical use on the trumpet. Whereas if you're using the literature, whether it be jazz songs, that's why I use the word literature, jazz songs, big band music, whatever it is, like for Jose, the mariachi stuff, um, whatever music that you're working on, find a piece that challenges your range, challenges your endurance, and do the working backwards on it. And make sure you do all 10 repetitions, and that will make what you're doing to gain that range, to gain that familiarity, to gain that strength and the um, endurance. All of it will be 100% appropriate for playing the trumpet on pieces of music. All of it. Okay? All of it. It will all be appropriate. Whereas there are so many, and once again, I'm not putting them down. Most of them don't know about this, right? Um, there are so many people, and I know them because a lot of them end up coming into lessons. um, people come in for lessons and um, they have range, but they can't play in that range. Well, that's because they're doing exercises. The range they got was from exercises. And don't get me wrong, you guys know that I also recommend my exercises, but you also know that I teach the 50% rule. And if you want to increase your range, if you're not using the music that you practice to get that increase, um, a lot of times it's not practical. Karen says, by working backwards, do you mean like we did with a couple of measures at a time? That's correct. Well, it's a couple measures at a time, and then you put those together, and then you. So I actually have a new form of that I just made up. It's actually more boring, but it's also more effective. I often tell people that if you're not getting bored when you practice, then you're not practicing, right? So I got a new version of working backwards. I call it binary backwards. And because the old version, I'm trying to get this to stop going out of focus. The old version um, would have you doing that last part more than the first part. And lately, I decided that's as good as that's been working. Surely I can come up with a better way than that. So the binary backwards breaks everything into halves. You break the whole piece into half, then that is in half, and then half, half, half. And so when you start, now you can take that to whatever level you want. Let's say you have a hard section. Well, that can be even also split in half, and then that can be split in half. Okay. But you put all these halves together in a way that all the pieces of the piece, all the sections of the piece are equally well learned. It's still working backwards. You still, oh, excuse me, you still start at the end, but you do all the different iterations 10 times. So yes, it is the same as what you were what you're talking about. So, any other questions? Any other questions? So I'm real serious about you guys trying that that idea where you accept just for 6 weeks, accept what your range is now and see what happens at the end of 6 weeks. Some of you won't want to do that. And that's sort of the problem, isn't it? Some of you say, I don't have 6 weeks to wait. For whatever reason it is. I've got this piece I have to play in 2 weeks. I have all state auditions or whatever. I have to audition for summer band camp. Whatever it is, some of you are going to say, "Oh, I couldn't do that. I can't. I can't stop working on my range for 6 weeks." Some of you are going to say that. That reminds me of that quote I told you guys about when It's a piano virtuoso talking about his students, and he says, talking about slow repetitive practice, and he says, um, unfortunately, the people who need that most, the people who need slow repetitive practice, are the ones who absolutely refuse to do it. And I don't have evidence of it, but I think being this idea of being okay with the range you have now falls in that same category. The ones who need it the most are the ones that are going to say, "Oh, no, 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 I can't stop working on range. I've got things I've got to do." The problem is you work on the range like that, and the chances are it's not going to get where you want it to be. So, Mr. Lampy says, "What is the best tip for overcoming mental mistakes?" Slowing down, absolutely slowing down. And it can be ridiculous slow, right? Let's say the piece is at 120 per quarter note. You can take it all the way to 30, right? You can take it all the way to 30. Mr. Derek says, I don't mind doing it, but I'm not fully understanding the goal. Is it to go through our exercises anyway and hit the high ones if we can, but not worry psychologically if we don't, or if we should stay away from the top couple notes of our range? It's the former, not the latter. Do everything you're doing like you're doing it, but when you get to the top notes, don't worry about it. Don't stress over it. Um, and see where that goes. We don't want to avoid see by avoiding the top notes, you're sending a message to your mind saying you can't play those. That's not what we're looking for. We are sending the message to your mind that you can play those notes. And I would rather have this than, I remember when the affirmation stuff was very, very, very popular, and it was part of the New Age movement. And they even mocked it on Saturday Night Live, um, where that guy would sit in the mirror and tell himself how wonderful he was and all that stuff. Okay. Um, that's not what I'm saying. I'm more interested in action than I am in what you say. Now, what you say is important too. Um, for example, I don't think any of my students should be saying, I'm not good at this or I'm not good at that. I, here's where I stand with the power of the spoken word. I believe in both. I believe in the power of negative and I believe in the power of positive. But in my lifetime, especially as a teacher, the evidence I've seen most of is the power of the negative spoken word. So that if you say, oh, I could never do that, that's going to have an impact on your playing. So we don't want to say stuff like that, but I'm more interested in the action, right? Go for the note, but don't judge afterwards. I I I read a book about math one time that talked about, maybe it wasn't math. I get all the books I've read mixed up, but This one book said that people who are afraid of math can't learn math because that part of your brain, I thought it was the hippocampus, but one of my students who's trained in this stuff told me it's not the hippocampus, it's a different part of the brain. It doesn't matter what part it is. There's a part of your brain, according to this book, that all of the information is filtered through. And it's an emotional part of your brain. So if you are terrified of math, when you try to sit down and do math, that terror will influence your ability to learn anything at all. And if we know that, then it's important when we do this kind of stuff, when we learn trumpet, anything that we're learning, we have to get rid of all that anxiety. We have to get rid of it. And I believe there's some people that say, like in this math book, they say that can't be fixed. But I don't think that's true. I think you can relearn, you can reprogram yourself so that the anxiety is no longer there. That is a precept of Stoic philosophy, right? You have control over what goes on in here. You guys know that I'm not a Stoic, but you know that I use the word Stoic as an adjective to describe the kind of person I am. Okay? And that is one of the things about Stoicism is that we have control over how we think. I believe the best control that we have is in how we behave, not in what we say. I think that the best control we have over that is what we do instead of what we say. So you could be that guy on Saturday Night Live that sits in the mirror and says, "You're a great trumpet player. Um, you have high range. You have endurance." You could be that person. Or you could be the person who behaves like you've got great range and who behaves like you've got good endurance. I would much rather do that. Mr. Derek says, "You are 100% on the money. This is why many people have a hard time with test taking." That's right. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, I came up with that idea, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago. And yeah, it just seems to me that if we behave that way, if we behave like we're not desperate to get a higher range, then the way we think about what we're doing when we're practicing should change. And I hesitate to say it. And in fact, I won't say it. But I think you'll see. So that's why I won't say it. It has to be genuine for it to work. It really does. It has to be genuine for it to work. And you know what? You know what? I hate to get preachy. No, I don't. You guys know that I only cross that line. I only cross that line when I think it's going to make you a better player. So I won't talk about your diet. I won't talk about religion. I won't talk about those things because they are outside of what we do here until the thing I'm about to say is going to help you with your trumpet playing. And so what I'm going to say to help you, if you're committed to this, I'm okay with my range thing, I would like you to consider the passages in the Bible that say God loves you, um, that God so loves the world, like John 3:16, that kind of stuff. God loves you so much that he sent his only son, right? Um, Now, I also hesitate to say the way other people say it. He loves you just the way you are. Um, no, he wants he wants you to be transformed. So I don't like to say it that way. But when it comes to who you are, when it comes to your skills or your lack of skills or stuff like that, then we can say that very confidently. He loves you just the way you are. You don't have to be more skilled. You couldn't possibly be more skilled enough to please God, right? So if you struggle with the ability to say, my range is good enough, try to bring that kind of meditation into the picture where you say, um, I do this all the time, by the way. I don't talk about it because, like I said, it crosses that line that I won't cross because I consider that to be unethical, right? If I'm here to teach you how to play trumpet and I use your time, that's not the way I see it. That's not a good uh, representation of what a Christian should be, in my opinion. Anyway, so my point is, if you do struggle, bring that into it. I was saying I do this all the time. I bring God into my worship of God, I bring it into my practice time in a variety of different ways. This is one of them. Um, you know that story about Miles Davis? Maybe you haven't heard this. Miles Davis, compared to Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis was the youngster. And when he got to New York and heard Dizzy Gillespie play, he said, it's documented in jazz history, he said, I could never do that. He could never play that fast or that high. So he decided, this is documented jazz history, he decided that he would go in a different direction. And that's the essence of what created Miles Davis as a player. Now, my version of that is a Christian version. I don't need to be like this guy or that guy. I don't need to be this good or that good. I get compliments all the time about how good I am as a player, and I have learned over the years to be grateful for people complimenting me. But the truth is, I don't need those kinds of compliments. I don't need to know that um, I'm better than some other guy or girl. Right? I don't need to know that. If I get first part, second part, third part, last part, that's that's not an issue for me. Now, that said, it does irritate me, and it's just irritation. It does irritate me when people promise me something and don't deliver. That's different. Oh, I want you to play first, and then I get there and I'm not playing first. That's a little irritating. It's not because I wanted to play first, it's because you lied to me, right? So, and I'm sure that when I've been irritated, it has looked on the surface as if I was angry that I didn't play first. No, I was angry that you lied to me. But anyway, that has nothing to do. Anyway, Karen says, oh wait, okay, I'm a little behind here. Let me see here. Larry says, Mr. Thomas says, can you give an overview of the various books you have? Um, the best overview, and I don't mind going through it with you real quick, is on my website. I'll put the link here. Go to the books. You know, when I put my menus together, I on this website, I chose not to have sub menus. So on my books page, I have I have the books represented two different ways. One is by category and just the links. And then under that is a, a chronological order of the books, newest ones being on the top and oldest ones being on the bottom. And this has all the links to buy the books and video links and all that kind of stuff. So, um, the first category of books I have is the routine books, the warm-ups. I use the word warm-ups on the page because some people don't use the word warm-ups. Routine, I'm sorry, don't use the word routine. And I wanted to make sure that the SEO would at least pick up some warm-up um, stuff. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 warm up routine related books. One range, physical trumpet pyramid, daily routines, chops express, trumpet chops tyro, trumpet chops player, trumpet chops apprentice, trumpet chops pro, trumpet chops master, and the last one is the trumpet switchbacks. Those are all exercise books. The next is trumpet scale books, which I have a variety of uh, tonalization study books. I have the band scale expansion studies, which is for people who play in band and they have to be tested on their scales. It's different from the major scale expansion studies, which are meant to be used with my tonalization studies. Then there are links to a bunch of tonalization study books. Then there is trumpet duets books, trumpet duet books. Celebrations was the first one. The trumpet Christmas duets, we're going in alphabetical order. Trumpet Christmas duets, trumpet hymn duets, trumpet player, trumpet pioneer duets, trumpet tyro duets, trumpet player duets, and the unadorned hymn duets. That's the most recent one. Then we have a couple jazz books and a few etudes and solo books. Um, and then finally, what I call creativity books, like the Monster Music Journal. That's a book that Pearl and I worked on together. Basically, it's for writing manuscript. It's got little monsters on the pages. Um, it's a very clever book. I wish we would sell more of those. And then we have a coloring book for Christmas. So that's an overview of the books. You can read all about it at this link. So that's what we have. Any questions about any individual books, just let me know. Mr. Derek says, is there one type of exercise that helps our general tone quality more than any other? Um, so tone is one of those things, just like range and endurance, that comes from the subconscious. I know that there's a lot of people that would disagree with me. Um, I can't stress enough how true this is. I just can't stress enough. So there is no. Now, if you understand what I mean by mental, psychological, then you can also understand the value of familiarity. It's the familiarity that gives you a great tone. Now, you can screw that up with ambition. This is what I'm learning about familiarity. If you are overly ambitious, the familiarity doesn't take hold like it should. Because of this, what we've been talking about today, about when that part of your brain has fear or anxiety or whatever, the information that comes in is compromised. So when you do your long tones, for example, or the tonalization studies, for example, the slower you go and the more time you spend on those notes, the more familiarity you're going to get from those exercises. It's the same thing for working on the music. The slower you go, the more familiarity you get from that music, from practicing the music. So now I do think that if it's done well, the three things um, that are in the routine. So you have the lip bends. Those are going to help. Lip bends, and you can bend the note and hold that longer, and then let it back up and hold that longer. Uh, in the trumpet chops books, I have the first six or whatever of the long tones. There's a break. I mean, there's no break. I'm sorry, I said it backwards. There's no break. But if you're trying to work on your familiarity, put a break. So when you have that first three notes, you can hold it long like that, take a breath, and then finish the exercise. If always keep in mind, what is your objective? What are you trying to accomplish? And that's an important part of this familiarity thing that I'm talking about, is on the routine. Go really, really slow so it all sinks in. Anyway, so you have the lip bends, you have the tonalization studies. Tonalization studies are one of the best things you can do for your uh, the tone that you have on the horn. And then third is the pedal tones. Now we've recently added, because so many people wanted it, the the exercise, what is it? What do I call it? The the spider dynamic long tones or something like that. That's also going to help your tone as well. But that should be done at the end of the day. I was trying to figure out what are we looking here. Mr. Derek says he loves the ones that don't even play trumpet. Heaven forbid. That's right. He loved John 3:16, right. Karen says I backed off the Chops Pro routine because I was missing so many notes and getting tired trying so hard. It felt better to play the other routines more accurately. So when you say backed off, here's what I recommend. I don't mind people backing off as long as they don't cut it completely. So instead of doing it twice a week, instead of doing it um, once a week, instead of doing it once every 2 weeks, you can make it. I mean, yeah. So you can make it. You can scale back without taking a full step backwards. Um, I'm I'm weary of backing off completely from a routine that you're already trying to do. But what you can do is cut back on a number, how often you do it. But I'm very weary of cutting back completely. Okay. Mr. Lampy says, I took your advice and started the Chops, Master Chop Express, which within my range. It is not easy, but it makes everything at lower levels much better and easier. That's right. That's right. Well, I'm glad you're doing that. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right. Any more questions? I do have to quit right at 2:30. Um, Stuff got to get done. We can probably do one or two more questions. I'm making a pizza today. Um, Let me show you my dough while we're waiting. This is the most a starter, I mean, a sourdough dough has ever expanded in all the time I've been doing. It makes it sound like I've been doing it a long time. It's been, what, a couple months. This is the most I've ever seen anything expand from my kitchen. I'm excited, and it smells like pizza dough. This one actually has a smell of commercial yeast. Very strange. Mr. Lampy says, any advice on transcribing faster licks or passages by ear? I get lost. Yes. Let me show you how I do this. Um, I recently transcribed this solo. Let me share screen. I like to use Word, I mean, not Word, Wave editing software. So this is a jazz thing. Um, you won't be able to hear this, I don't think, but I think that's a bunch of fast notes. Nope. I got wrong. Got it wrong. Here might be a bunch of fast notes. No. Anyway, you get the idea. You can zoom in, zoom out, and highlight just one note. This is just one note right there. And you just play it over and over again. And then when you have that note, you can do two of them. Right? Oh, the sound is coming through. Woo! So so yes, let me find something that maybe this is faster. Nope. Anyway, you get the point. I've been using uh, this kind of software for my transcribing for a long, long time, since the 90s. It makes it so much easier. So yes, that's what I prefer. Now, I don't cheat. I know some of this software can, not this particular software, but some software can do the transcription for you. I don't do that. Um, and you know, the biggest reason why I don't do that is because it gets it wrong quite often. Right? So, but yes, that's what I do. And if it's too hard and I can't um, hear something, then I approximate. Yeah, WavePad. I think it's an Australian company. Mr. Derek says, nice, that looks like it will be delicious. Oh, yeah. We'll see. The last time I tried to make um, sourdough pizza, it was a disaster. But this looks really, really good. Anyway, we've got 2 minutes left. Any quick questions before we move on, before we shut it down? Hello, Raimo. Nice to see you. How do I download to WavePad? I actually buy the recordings. So I'll go on because you know if you go to iTunes or you go to Amazon Music, it's just 99 cents most of the time. So whatever it is that I'm working on, I will download it and then open it up in the WavePad. I a long time ago I stopped trying to get recordings off of YouTube and stuff like that. Um, I would rather if the only time I'll ever do that is if there's no other option. So, all right, everybody, it's 2:30. Mm, uh, I've got a lot of stuff that needs to get done today besides pizza later tonight. Um, so God bless you guys. I hope you have a great weekend. And I've got a klezmer gig tomorrow. So that's exciting. Um, anyway, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time, okay? Have a great weekend.